That's really interesting, Shane. And I'd love to go into more detail on the supply chain efforts for chia when you were growing Health Warriors. You mentioned to me in the past that it was a big effort trying to work with the Tarahumara Indians and sort of use their sort of redevelop their land. And so, do you want to go into detail on that?
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about that. And the Tarahumara never a chia field for the amount of chia we were buying once we really started to grow. The chia fields are huge. They're like the cornfields in Iowa, except they're down in Bolivia and Chile and places like that. And it's really beautiful crop. You look out at a chia field and it gets little blue flowers all over it before they harvest it. But we learned, I guess it was around 2015, that the Tarahumara had a really bad drought period in the Copper Canyons. And they're all subsistence farmers. And they have these little 4 or 5 acre farms. And basically, the land had died. There were no nutrients in the soil. They had lost their seeds, so they couldn't save seeds year over year. And we, at that point, had finally started making some money. And we were like, how can we give back? Because they were a big inspiration for us starting the company. What can we do to help? So we chose one farm. It was about 5 acres down in Eureka in the Copper Canyons. And that's Nick with one of the little Tarahumara guys there in the field. And basically, we said, look, we're going to take $10,000 and we're going to buy fertilizer to put nutrients back into your soil. And the type of fertilizer you use in the Copper Canyons is goat manure. So we're going to buy goat manure. We're going to buy basic hosing for irrigation. And we'll give you money for seeds, and we'll pay for your farmers to clear all the weeds out of your field and try to get it going again. And if we can bring this one farm back to life, then maybe we can do 100 after that. There's thousands of these farms, and the Terramar just have no money. So that was the idea, and we did it, and it worked really well. So Nick and I and Austin, our CFO, who's a great guy, who's here in Richmond, went down for a couple of weeks for the first harvest from the farm, and it was just an amazing experience. It's a really hard place to get to. It turns out in retrospect that there are major problems with narcos down there, and they've actually ran a lot of our farmers. So that's Nick and Austin. And Arnulfo. Arnulfo is the champion Tarahumara runner who wins the 100-mile race every year. So when you read Born to Run, you'll read all about Arnulfo. And anyone, if you showed this to the U of R cross country team, they'd all know who he is. But they run by me every morning down by the river. It's really annoying, like so fast. But
100
so
miles.
we had this amazing trip down there. Yeah. So these guys, the Tarahumara, run 25, 50, 100 miles at a time with no shoes on, up and down 10,000-foot mountains. It's truly exceptional. Their cardiovascular abilities are just amazing. And it's not exercise for them, it's fun. And so we had a big trip down there. We had a big celebration. We helped with the harvest. And what we did was we made a flavor of chia bar for the Tarahumara. And we said, we'll do a Kickstarter. We'll sell this on our website and we'll sell it on Amazon. And we'll give all the profits from it to fund more farms. And what was really cool was our Whole Foods buyer at the time. So when you work with the big grocery chains, there's one person who's your buyer. And the buyer determines what new products they're taking in. It's sort of, they determine the life and death of your business. And we had a great Whole Foods buyer at the time that said, wait a minute, we called it Operation Farm and Run. He was like, this is really cool. We showed him the video we made for the Kickstarter. And, he got all teared up in the meeting down in Texas. And he was like, why don't we launch this bar nationally with Whole Foods? We'll give 10% of revenue to the program, which would have been, millions of dollars. So we were like, wow, this is really exciting. And we started to do it, and then Amazon bought Whole Foods and ruined the whole thing. So it's kind of disappointing. But, the pictures I threw together for you all here, as you think about careers and what to do, when I was your age, I didn't know. No one at Colgate when I was there, no one talked about being an entrepreneur. No one talked about starting your own company. No one even talked about joining a fast growing company. Career services was all about, well, Deloitte and Bain are coming next week, or, here's how to get your MBA or go to law school. And I just felt like it was such a miss for me in particular because I felt such a good fit once we did this company. I was like, this is what I want to do. I love this. And even if you aren't the one that takes all the risk and starts a company, joining a company that's taking off in the food and beverage space or beauty, that's, the whole consumer space is really fun. And I put a bunch of funny pictures in there because I wanted to give you a sense for, our 120 employees. But we had a job title called Road Warrior, where young men and women your age would join us right after college. They get paid a salary, great benefits, and their job was going out and marketing our product in the field and at Whole Foods and Wegmans. And there's no better training for learning how to sell than having to go out and actually sell stuff all day long. And a lot of people ended up. Lucy was a Australian lawyer in New York who quit her job to go be a field salesperson for Health Warrior. So there she is at the U.S. Open. But it was really fun, and you get to work. That's a chia seed all blown up. So this is Bradley. Bradley doing a demo in Whole Foods on Halloween, decided to dress up as a Cookie Monster so he could juxtapose chia bars, and we were doing a healthy Halloween effort, which never worked, but we tried it every year. So that's Bradley in Vermont, and these guys, a lot of them ended up with really senior jobs at the company, making a lot of money and with a ton of responsibility. And you can spend 2 years and $100,000 getting an MBA, or you can go actually learn something and do it, make some money, not have opportunity cost, and work pretty hard, but get to know yourself a little better in the process. So that was probably the coolest part of the company. It wasn't even the food; it was the culture. We had a really cool company. Everyone loved getting together. We had a lot of fun together, for consumer brands, I think that's really important because retail's hard, food is hard. It's hard to make money at first. But to build something special with a lot of people who wake up fired up to go to their jobs every day is a really neat thing. So that's one of our investors, Arian Foster. I don't know if you guys know Arian, but he was the best running back in the NFL for a while. And this is a demo he was doing at Whole Foods in Texas after he invested. He went and set up a table and decided to sell some chia bars and make some smoothies. And so many people showed up, the police had to come, and it got totally out of control. But it was great. I got a call from his lawyer back in 2015, and I'm not a very good sports fan. And it was pretty funny. His lawyer called me and said, Shane, one of my clients is interested in your business. Would you like to talk about it? And he was like, he has a huge social media following, et cetera. And I said something really rude, like, Joe, we don't have $10,000 to pay this guy to tweet for us right now. And he said, Shane, he has a $50 million contract. He doesn't want $10,000 from you. He wants to invest. So, Arian ended up investing millions of dollars in the company and being an awesome investor who would go do stuff like this that, other brands, junk food brands, would have paid him seven figures to go do. So that was really fun and really cool. And it was great to, for the team to be able to go spend time with these guys. And they were really in it because they believed in the mission. And that was an important thing. And it's a great way to vet who you work with, who invests in your company, who's on your board, even if they're private equity or venture capital.
So Shane, how interesting was it getting all these different athletes and public figures to invest in your business, along with these different Series A, B, and C with venture capital firms? So where did a lot of these investments come from, and how was the experience?
Yeah, it sort of went from, and I think in the modern day, we'd call our Series A seed round probably, but we didn't know better back then. So it started out self-funded. We thought we'd never need to raise money. That wasn't true. Once we launched nationally in Whole Foods, it gets expensive really quickly. So our Series A was all friends and family. It was people we went to college with, friends of ours who had started businesses, um, just everyone under the sun. And then our Series B was a lot of our original investors. And then we had a lot of the athletes came in. So Arian Foster's group came in. And then New Richmond Ventures, which is Jim Ukrop's investment group in town, was a brand new thing at the time. And they came in as a big investor in the Series B, which was really nice because the Ukrops understood grocery, obviously, because they had, I don't know, you guys probably don't remember Ukrops, but it was the main premium grocer in the Mid-Atlantic region for decades and decades. They sold it to Ahold, who owned Stop and Shop and Giant and Martin's about 15 years ago. But they were really awesome investors, um, which was great. So they came in, and then the company doubled again, and we realized at that point, I think of venture capital as, and this is oversimplifying it, but for you guys, I think, and women, the venture capital is like, we're going to invest in 10 companies, nine of them might get no return, but one has to have a huge return. Private equity, I think there's two different stages. There's the kind that is growth private equity, which is what I would consider our partners, VMG partners. And that's, you guys are growing really well. You can put more fuel on this fire and grow even better. And then there's kind of private equity that buys companies and fires everyone, and gets rid of all the expensive old employees and then flips it to another private equity group. To me, that's less interesting, but that's a big part of the industry. So VMG, we ran our own Series C round. So Austin, our CFO, was a investment banker for 8 years at BB&T before we tricked him into coming over to Health Warrior, and we did it all in house. So we didn't hire an investment banker. We actually did our own presentation, put together our own timeline, did the whole thing ourselves, and we only went out to 6 private equity groups, and we got 5 bids. And when we actually took a lower valuation to go with the better partner, which I think was a really good decision. But the nice thing in the food industry, once you're national, there's something called syndicated data. So all the sales data from places like Target and now Whole Foods people can buy it. It costs a lot of money, but private equity investors can buy it. The retailers can buy it. The big strategic food companies can buy it. So everyone knows how you're doing. There's not a lot of we put together these big presentations, but they already know a lot of it because they buy the data. And our data was really good. So we had a lot of interest, which was great.
And so, Shane, how was the transition to